The $7 trillion banking pivot. Why XDC, XLM, and XRP are quietly taking over global finance. The banking pivot no one's talking about. While the mainstream argues about meme coins and ETFs, global financial infrastructure is undergoing its biggest shift in over 50 years, and almost no one's talking about it. $7 trillion. That's the daily volume of global payments, trade flows, and cross-border settlements that institutions are quietly preparing to rewire using digital assets, instant messaging standards like ISO 20022, and decentralized ledger technology that guarantees speed, traceability, and trust. This isn't about speculation. It's about systemic transformation. Institutions are preparing to move away from legacy rails built decades ago, like SWIFT's antiquated messaging systems and slow, multi-layered correspondent banking processes, into an era of real-time settlement, programmable money, and cross-border interoperability. And the players leading the charge? Not Ethereum, not Bitcoin, but digital assets with institution-grade architecture XRP, XLM, and XDC. The IMF, World Bank, and Bank for International Settlements (BIS) have made their intentions crystal clear. In dozens of white papers and conference presentations, they're pushing for tokenized bank deposits, regulated CBDCs, unified payment ledgers, tokenized real-world assets. But they're not looking to disrupt, they're looking to upgrade. The goal is a smooth transition from traditional rails to blockchain-enabled ones, where compliance, scalability, and interoperability are non-negotiable. That's exactly why XRP, XDC, and XLM are positioned right at the heart of this pivot. Let's talk reality. The BIS Project Icebreaker is actively testing cross-border CBDC settlement. The Digital Dollar Project and the Digital Euro Association are conducting parallel simulations. Over 130 countries are exploring CBDCs, and the one common requirement: ISO 20022 compatibility and ledger-agnostic messaging frameworks. And all this points to one truth. We're witnessing a new financial architecture being built quietly, brick by brick, behind the scenes. From FedNow's instant payment rails in the US, to SWIFT's ISO 20022 migration, to Project Dunbar connecting CBDCs across Asia and Oceania, the writing is on the wall. This is a controlled, phased deployment of the next financial paradigm. And retail has no clue it's even happening. The narrative isn't about price anymore. It's about infrastructure. And the tokens that mirror that infrastructure, the ones being tested, adopted, and integrated by central banks and financial institutions, are XRP, XLM, and XDC. They're not part of the future. They're part of the present transformation, already woven into the system's DNA. The global $7 trillion per day flow of value is about to be rerouted. And those who understand where it's going? They're not speculating. They're positioning. Let's break this down. XRP isn't just another altcoin, it's infrastructure. Built from day one for liquidity and cross-border settlement, XRP is Ripple's answer to the outdated, expensive correspondent banking model. The traditional system requires pre-funded accounts in multiple jurisdictions, Nostro/Vostro accounts, tying up trillions in idle capital. XRP solves this by acting as a bridge currency, enabling near-instant transfers without pre-funded accounts. It's already being tested and used by over 100 financial institutions through RippleNet, including SBI, Santander, and Tranglo. Ripple's on-demand liquidity ODL corridors are live across Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. And with the acquisition of Metaco and Hidden Road, Ripple is now integrating custody and credit infrastructure directly into traditional finance. This isn't theory, it's deployment. XDC is the silent giant of trade finance. This sector moves over $19 trillion globally each year and has long been held back by paper documents, manual verification, and multi-day settlement windows. XDC, built on the XDC network, formerly XINFIN, provides a decentralized, enterprise-grade ledger purpose-built to digitize trade documentation, reduce fraud, and enable real-time liquidity. It's already integrated with the TFD Initiative, TradeTeq, and ITFA's DNI initiative, all major efforts to standardize and digitize global trade flows. These aren't speculative partnerships. They're operating in live regulatory sandboxes in the UK, UAE, and Singapore. XLM, the native token of the Stellar network, is taking a different but equally strategic path. It's focusing on compliant asset tokenization, CBDC infrastructure, and retail-to-DeFi integration. With the introduction of Soroban, Stellar now supports smart contracts, enabling everything from tokenized microloans to programmable CBDCs. Palago Labs, incubated by the Stellar Development Foundation, is building tokenized credit products with real-world use cases. MoneyGram's integration with Stellar has already created a global cash-to-crypto bridge in over 180 countries. Stellar is also deeply involved in USDC's expansion and CBDC pilots in regions like Ukraine and Latin America. These three tokens, XRP, XDC, and XLM, aren't chasing the next trend. They're solving real, trillion-dollar problems: fractured messaging standards, siloed banking systems, liquidity shortages, and the inability to transfer data and value simultaneously. And they're doing it in compliance with ISO 20022, the messaging standard that over 11,000 financial institutions are adopting. This isn't theoretical. This is execution, and it's happening now. The new rails are being laid, and the tokens that align with that infrastructure are quietly preparing to move trillions. Real-world deployments already live. So what's actually happening under the radar? Let's start with XRP. In Japan, SBI Holdings, a financial giant and one of Ripple's earliest backers, is aggressively building an XRP-powered remittance ecosystem across Asia. This isn't just theory. SBI Remit has live corridors operational with Thailand and the Philippines, leveraging RippleNet and XRP's on-demand liquidity, ODL, to move value across borders in seconds. Meanwhile, Ripple's acquisition of Metaco, a Swiss-based institutional digital asset custody provider, gives Ripple a serious foothold in the custody business, something absolutely critical for banks and large financial institutions. Metaco already works with institutions like Citibank and BBVA, and now that power is in Ripple's hands. Then comes the strategic bombshell: Ripple's $1.25 billion acquisition of Hidden Road, a prime brokerage platform previously focused on institutional FX and crypto liquidity. This expands Ripple's footprint beyond payments into institutional credit and liquidity infrastructure. It's a move that mirrors what major investment banks are doing, and it's powered by XRP liquidity. Now let's talk XDC. The TFD Initiative, the Trade Finance Distribution Initiative, has confirmed that over 10 global banks and fintechs are actively using the XDC network to tokenize, distribute, and settle trade finance assets. This includes heavyweights like TradeTeq and institutions connected through ITFA. TradeTeq, a major secondary trading platform, has already executed real tokenized invoice financing on XDC. Not tests, actual financing flows. This is the kind of deployment that cuts costs, speeds up settlement, and allows smaller financiers to compete with banks. And what about compliance? XDC has already been admitted into regulatory sandboxes in the UK, Singapore, and the UAE, jurisdictions leading the charge in Web3 regulation. These pilots are actively testing real-world asset tokenization under existing legal frameworks. Then there's XLM and its push into real-world financial access and programmable compliance. Palago Labs, backed by the Stellar Development Foundation, is already deploying tokenized credit instruments built on Soroban smart contracts. These products aim to replace outdated credit scoring and loan disbursement methods with fully on-chain, programmable logic that works across borders. Meanwhile, MoneyGram's integration with Stellar has created one of the largest crypto-to-cash bridges in the world, allowing users in over 180 countries to on- and off-ramp digital assets through traditional remittance infrastructure. This is what DeFi to retail looks like in action. Stellar was also one of the first networks to integrate with USDC, enabling compliant stablecoin transactions across continents. And it's actively working with multiple governments on CBDC prototypes, including the Ukrainian hryvnia. Here's the point: this isn't the future. This is the present, just hidden beneath layers of retail noise and market distraction. While the average investor chases the next meme coin breakout, the actual financial infrastructure is going live, quietly, steadily, and globally. Because by the time CNBC reports on it, and by the time crypto influencers start hyping it, the infrastructure will already be deployed. and those positioned ahead of it will already be in profit. The wealth transfer isn't coming. It's already started. The hidden signals on the charts. If you're wondering why prices haven't exploded yet, here's why. Institutions don't front-run retail. They build silently, accumulate quietly, and deploy with precision. Once the rails are laid and the narrative is safe for public digestion, they don't tweet, they test. They don't hype, they integrate. And if you know what to look for, the signs are everywhere. Let's start with XDC. Since January, the XDC network has seen a 200% plus spike in smart contract deployments. This isn't retail playing around. This is infrastructure being tested, deployed, and iterated on. New dApps in trade finance, tokenization platforms, and asset distribution systems are all springing up in stealth. XDC's GitHub activity and validator node growth are mirroring what we saw in early-phase Ethereum, only this time it's enterprise-grade from the jump. Now look at XLM. When Soroban launched its smart contracts layer, XLM's trading volume spiked to $152 million in 24 hours, more than double its average. That's not random. That's coordinated interest. And it coincided with activity from MoneyGram, new USDC liquidity channels, and multiple tokenized asset tests quietly being deployed in pilot regions. XRP, meanwhile, has shown some of the clearest accumulation patterns on-chain. Wallet creation has been steadily increasing, even during periods of overall market downturns. Not only that, but whale wallets, those holding millions of XRP, have grown significantly in number, while exchange balances have declined. That's the classic sign of off-exchange cold storage, aka institutional custody. And here's what ties it all together. On-chain metrics show growing volume, higher wallet retention, and longer holding durations. Developer activity across Soroban and the XDC network has been ramping up aggressively. Stablecoin movement into these ecosystems, especially USDC on Stellar, has accelerated. While Bitcoin dominates headlines and Ethereum continues to be a gas fee playground, the quiet networks, XRP, XDC, and XLM, are laying functional rails for regulated capital, compliant money, and real utility. But here's the hard truth. These assets won't pump like meme coins. They move when the infrastructure goes live. And when the integrations flip from testnet to production, the price action won't be linear. It'll be explosive because the liquidity floodgates will open, and most people will be too late. Until then, the smart money is positioning, stacking, and building around assets with actual use cases. The charts are whispering what the headlines won't say. A quiet revolution is happening. And the only question is, will you see it before it's obvious? Why the window for retail is closing. This isn't a scare tactic. It's a reality check. By the time the XRP price hits $5, the average person will say, I should have bought more. By the time XDC becomes the default for trade finance, the news will be old. By the time XLM flips $1, Palago Labs will already have billions in tokenized credit. The window is closing not because of hype, but because utility is taking over. The new financial rails are being deployed right now. Not in 2030. Not in theory. Now. And the tokens quietly powering that shift are XRP, XLM, and XDC. Don't wait for CNBC to explain it. That'll be too late. Conclusion. This is the wealth transfer. This is bigger than speculation. This is about positioning yourself before the system flips, not after. XRP for liquidity, XDC for trade, XLM for compliance-driven tokenization. The $7 trillion per day system is being rebuilt, and these tokens are embedded in the new architecture. Ignore the noise. Study the rails, because this shift won't wait for retail. This is the kind of setup that creates generational wealth for those paying attention. Subscribe to Be Crypto Smart so you don't miss what's coming next.